Hello, good evening. It's 10 p.m. here in Accra, and this is News at 10. We're live from the News Hub at Adesawe Kanda. I'm Stephen Anti. Let's start with today's news highlights. The committee set up to investigate the death of the 7 persons involved in the Mansun Kwanta shooting incident says there were no facts to establish that the deceased persons were armed robbers who engaged in exchange of fire with the police. A statement issued by the Information Ministry also said that there were no facts presented to the committee that indicated that they had exchanged fire with the police. Meanwhile, while expressing satisfaction with the committee's work, relatives want government to implement the recommendations in the report. And over 1,900 lives have been lost in road crashes from January 30 this year. The staggering figures have caused stakeholders in the sector to call for innovative approaches to road safety management in the country. The Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, CTAG, has described as illegitimate a decision by the National Council for Tertiary Education not to validate members to draw their November salaries. The association says it will not be intimidated in pursuing what legally due its members. Right, let's take our very first story tonight. The committee set up to investigate the death of the 7 persons involved in the Mansun Kwanta shooting incident says there were no facts to establish that the deceased persons were armed robbers who engaged in exchange of fire with the police. A statement issued by the Information Ministry also said that there were no facts presented to the committee that indicated that they had exchanged fire with the police.
Upon intelligence, a search was intensified in the forest at Manso Dome Biposo, about 3 kilometers away from the crime scene. Upon our search, we retrieved 4 AK-47 assault rifles, 1 SMG number 1974611, and also retrieved 1 G3 number not yet known. We also retrieved 1 pump action gun. We also retrieved 5 boxes of live AK-47 ammunition. Toyota Corolla car with registration number BA295/15 and unregistered motorbike with a rider and pillion appeared driving towards the Manso Kwanta direction. The police signaled them to stop, but they ignored the signal and started firing at the police.
That was Ashanti Regional Police Commander DCOP Kwesi Mensah Duku after the shooting when he addressed the media at the Regional Police Headquarters in Kumasi on the shooting of the 7 suspects. But 4 months on, a 7-member government committee that investigated the incident has concluded otherwise. The killings on July 17, 2018 triggered outrage and anger in Zongo communities in Kumasi. Residents and relatives insisted on the innocence of the 7. A 7-member committee was subsequently set up after days of protests over the killings. The committee completed its work and submitted its report to Vice President Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia in September 2018. A statement signed by Information Minister Kojo Ponkruma on Monday, November 19, said government, upon a careful study of the report, has decided that the 21 police personnel involved in the incident should be interdicted by the police administration and subjected to formal police criminal investigations. The statement added that in the interim, government, in consultation with the families and community leaders, will provide support for dependents of the deceased persons. Government is assuring the general public that due process will be followed in the pursuit of justice and calls for continued calm and patience pending a conclusive determination of the matter. And while expressing satisfaction with the committee's work, relatives want government to implement the recommendations in the report. Here's a report by Ibrahim Abubakar.
Some relatives of the deceased who spoke to TV3 say they are satisfied with the report.
Since the onset of this tragedy, which befall us, we the family have always maintained our standard. Our brothers are innocent, and they have never ever involved themselves in the activities that will demean what? Their personality.
And that report, they say they are going to compensate to the family. So we are waiting for implementation of the report.
We are all happy about the statement that government has come out with. But we are pleading on the government to be able to take the 21 police officers to justice. Maybe they will say that they will take them to justice, but after they brought it into the media, and they will not do anything after that.
Government has assured the public that due process will be followed in the pursuit of justice and calls for patience pending a conclusive determination of the matter.
Meanwhile, the Bureau of Public Safety, while commending government for the bold step of an independent investigations into the events of the day, is asking for the creation of an independent police complaints commission to address similar future occurrences. Nana Akwada is the director of the Bureau, Executive Director of the Bureau of Public Safety. Is joining us by Skype now. Ms. Akwada, good evening. Thank you very much. I'm grateful that you could join us. You are now calling for some other measures alongside the interdiction of the 21 officers. Can you talk us through what exactly you want?
Well, good evening to your viewers. And good evening to yourself, Stephen. Well, basically, we've made the call that beyond the interdiction and subsequent prosecution of these officers, we want government to look at the bigger picture of creating a permanent independent body to investigate issues like this between police and civilians. You agree with me that in the past couple of years, we've had similar occurrences across the country that have not had the kind of attention that the issue at Marathon Quanta have had. And so we want government to take that bold step to implement, this call that we've been calling on him since 2014. We have also called for a comprehensive review of their arrest and rapid response procedures, because we think that per statistics available to the Bureau of Public Safety between January and June this year, the police success rate with arrests has not been very good. We have as much as 57% of the arrests turning violence, and with an outcome of over 85%, death casualty rate. And so we think that it's important that the state, or if you like, the police command, focus some attention on, police orientation. And then lastly, we also called for general training in democratic policing for the police service. Because look, whether we like it or not, the police are the most visible manifestation of government authority. It's important that they come across to the public as responsive to the needs and expectations of the public, and also use the authority of the state in the people's interest.
But Mr. Akwada, do you think these are changes the police council or government will be willing to implement or embark on?
Well, absolutely, is in the interest of the state for them to embark on. Look, the legitimacy of any state is demonstrated in the daily work of the police service. And so if we fail to get the police properly oriented in a democratic era like ours, we are threatening the very tenets of our own democracy. And I think that it will be in the interest of the state to, if you like, get these things going.
But finally, you also are calling for the Ashanti Regional Police Commander to lay down his tools. You think this is the right time to do so?
Well, Stephen, that's an ambush there. The Bureau has not called for that as yet. I believe that if by tomorrow morning, the facts as we have it, or I have it from the scouting officers, I make it available to the Bureau, I won't be given the authority to speak to that on behalf of the Bureau. But for now, it's my personal opinion. That's why I posted it on my personal social media.
That's very fair. But under the circumstances, considering the facts presented to us by the regional commander and the conclusion of the report, that's at variance. I mean, it obviously meant that the facts given by the regional police commander do not match what the committee found. It's a grave ground for him to now bow out, don't you think so?
Well, personally, let me still say this, that this is not the position of the Bureau as yet. But personally, I think that the difference between the story as told the public by the regional police commander and what the committee is putting out there, at least what government have told us, indicates that the story as put out by DCOP Duku is more or less concocted. And to that extent, I think while it is criminal in nature, especially when there are 7 lives at stake, that also nearly marred the peace in a whole community, the regional commander should be tendering in his badge to the IGP now. I mean, if he stays in office even 1 more hour beyond what we have heard and seen in the media, I think that is uncalled for. The IG himself must get this man to tender in his badge as early as possible.
Right, Mr. Akwada, we're grateful for your time. Thank you extremely. Nana Akwada is the Executive Director of the Bureau of Public Safety. I'm Stephen Enti. This is News at 10. We're live from the News Hub at Adesawe, Kanda, and Accra. You can also hear me on 3FM 92.7. We'll be right back. Please stay. Welcome back. Now, the Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, CTAC, has described as illegitimate a decision by the National Council for Tertiary Education not to validate members to draw their November salaries. The association says it will not be intimidated in pursuing what is legally due its members. Here's a report by Ibrahim Abubakar.
Teachers in the various public colleges of education across the country have not been in classrooms for the past 3 weeks. The teachers are on strike, demanding payment of market premium and book and research allowance. For absenting themselves from the classroom for 16 days, the National Council for Tertiary Education, NCTE, has directed principals of the colleges of education not to validate the teachers for their November salaries. But CTAC says the NCTE directive is legitimate.
We expect that they should be the pace setters for following the laid down principles and rules that govern all of us, our lives, and the work that we do for others to follow. We know that the act that establishes the National Council for Tertiary Education does not in any way give them that mandate to pronounce a strike, legal or otherwise. That rests in the bosom of the National Labour Commission.
The association says it will continue to fight for what is due its members.
We are boldened by this decision that they have taken. We, as leaders of the association, and all of us who are members of the association, we are good students of the philosophy that if you fail to stand up for something, you fall for anything, and wouldn't like to fall for anything. We believe we are on the right path of law.
The 36 public colleges of education would have to be closed down if the teachers are not back to the classroom by Monday, November 26.
And family members of persons with diabetes have been encouraged to support their diabetic relatives to live longer. Here's another report by Beatrice Spielgabra.
Diabetes is a chronic disease that occurs when the body does not produce enough insulin, leading to excess of sugar in the body. Symptoms include excess thirst, urination, fatigue, blurred vision, and weight loss. Comfort Mensah is diabetic and has lived with the disease for 15 years. She was not devastated when she was diagnosed with the disease because of her awareness that a number of her paternal relatives were diabetic. But Comfort says living with diabetes is not pleasant.
Serious, but so I'm sure no crane. The way I see the dinner, so I'm sure one can say over.
She wants the government to support diabetic patients in the cost of treatment. The theme for 2018 World Diabetes Day is the family and diabetes. Head of the Konfuanochi Diabetes Clinic, Dr. Osei Safo Kantanka, explains children being diagnosed with the disease are obese. He stressed the importance of family members supporting patients to eat proper diet and taking their medication at the appropriate times. Dr. Safo Kantanka observed a number of diabetic patients are not aware of their status, hence the need for increased awareness on the disease.
Even though we are seeing quite a number of diabetic patients, there are still a lot more that by virtue of our health system, the fact that we don't screen patients or we don't screen people trying to catch these diseases at an early stage.
He also lamented the expensive treatment cost which is not covered under the National Health Insurance Scheme. Family members with history of diabetes have been enjoined to screen their children to ascertain their status.
The Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly says it is overburdened with high operational costs in managing waste disposed at the Oti landfill site by adjoining municipalities. The Assembly is seeking support from the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources as well as the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development to address this problem.
Landfill site is estimated to receive between 1,000 and 1,400 metric tons of waste from Kumasi daily. Located at Oti, a community popularly known as Kuwait, the landfill site is on a 100-acre land. Part of the land has been used to create a buffer for the Oti community. The authorities have planted trees of various species as vegetative cover to control the stench hitting the surrounding communities. The chain of activities at the site includes dumping by trucks and tricycles, spreading of waste by bulldozers, compacting of the waste by a compactor and covering of the waste. For the past 2 months, the tricycles are challenged in disposing of their waste due to the poor road network.
Sometimes we used to even sleep here with our motorbikes. That's the main problem, that sometimes the young boys in it even dump their rubbish the various places that it's not need for us to put the rubbish aside. So if they manage the place well for us, I hope all the incidents will not happen in this place for us. Then I'll make sure that everything will make well for us, because this time as you can see, the machine is not good, the place is almost full. So anytime when you come, you'll be struggling a lot.
During a visit to the site, Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources Cecilia Benadapa urged the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly to help address the challenge faced by the tricycle operators, but the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly says it is overburdened with high operational costs of managing waste disposed at the landfill site by adjoining communities. The Assembly is also saddled with huge debt owed waste management contractors. Metropolitan Chief Executive Osei Asibienhwi appealed to the Ministry for Sanitation and Water Resources for help.
We have a lot of challenges, and we've also devised a positive means of solving a lot of the problems. One area which I was going to talk about, but about 3 weeks ago, I heard you coming out to our aid. So meaning that you already knows our problem and you even started working on it. It was about support that is being given to Accra Metropolitan Assembly, whereas KMA is also being denied the same support.
And the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources has launched a program called the Sanitation Technology Competition to commemorate this year's World Toilet Day. This will serve as a means of leveraging technology to address the sanitation challenges in the country.
World Toilet Day is an official United Nations International Observance Day on November 19 to inspire action to tackle the global sanitation crisis. World Toilet Day exists to inform, engage and inspire people to take action towards achieving this goal. In Ghana, 15% of Ghanaians have access to improved toilets, access to toilets has increased by 9%, with 19% of the population still engaged in open defecation.
The ministry is coming up with various strategies and plans to ensure that every segment of our life, of our society, whether it is in the market, the school, compound, health institution, or wherever, we have appropriate facilities being provided.
A landlord at Jamestown in Accra indicated although efforts are being put in place to eliminate the problem, it has stalled due to lack of access to essential sewage. The Director of Sanitation at the Ministry of Sanitation says the matter would be looked into.
For 3 months, we have laid everything. We've put up a toilet, we've laid pipes. We are just yet to join. And they told us because of the abstract, it will take 5 years before they will come and cut it.
Who said that?
I think by the sewage company. They said unless 5 years before they will come and cut it.
The issue NEE is raising, I'm going to follow it up with the project staff to make sure as quickly as possible they connect NEE's house to the sewage system. Once they've put the pipe in place, connecting to the system shouldn't take that many days as NEE is talking about. I'm wondering whether it is 5 years as NEE said, but I cannot doubt him. So I'll follow up with the project team and make sure they take the necessary action as quickly as possible to get them hooked onto the network.
The World Toilet Day was commemorated in Accra with the ministry's call on all relevant stakeholders and the citizenry to contribute their quota for the attainment of set goals.
Well, so you might not know, but World Toilets Day is also World Men's Day. Unfortunately, we didn't hear about Men's Day. But let's do some international news and we're out of here. Atiku Abubakar, the main challenger to Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari in February's poll, has launched his manifesto with a pledge to get Nigeria working again. In a Facebook Live, he laid out his vision and asked Nigerians to join him on the journey.
The sad fact today, as you know, is that too many of our people are not working and are living in poverty and insecurity. The very fabric of our society is breaking down. We have never been so divided as a nation. The most important question in this election is, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Are you richer or poorer? That is why our primary focus is to get Nigeria working again. However, I'm not here to tell you how I will get Nigeria working again. Instead, I would like to tell you how we will get Nigeria working again together.
Right, and that's how we wrap up with NEWSAT10. Thanks for your time. Good night.